Here he comes, Jon Jones, trying to regain the UFC light heavyweight title on Saturday night, phone in hand, looks ready to go. Inspector's telling Jon Jones to put his phone down. He gives it to his manager, Abe Kawa.
204.
204 for Jon Jones. 204. Makes weight easily.
Thank you, baby.
I've been working on my posing.
Okay, yes.
You don't want to make heads in there?
And flip-flops, John.
You guys want to get in?
Or somebody grab his flip-flops. Anybody?
Jon Jones leaves his flip-flops on stage.
204, right? Amanda Nunes!
And here comes Amanda Nunes, who of course is challenging for the women's featherweight title tomorrow night against Chris Cyborg in our co-main event. Nunes is the UFC women's Bantamweight champion.
145.
145 on the nose for Amanda Nunes. First fight at 145 pounds for Nunes. In the UFC. And here comes Andre Ewell. You have to have someone named Ewell on a card during the holidays, don't you? Andre Ewell against Nathaniel Wood on the Fight Pass prelims tomorrow night.
135 and a half.
135.5 for Andre Ewell. 2 out of our 4 headliners. And here comes Ilir Latifi, the stout light heavyweight who fights Corey Anderson on the pay-per-view main card at UFC 232.
$205 and a half.
205.5 for Ilir Latifi. Big fight at 205 pounds for Mr. Latifi against Corey Anderson. Latifi's a teammate, of course, Alexander Gustafsson, will fight Jon Jones in the main event. Big Swedish contingent in Los Angeles this week, including Swedish media. And here comes Latifi's opponent, Corey Anderson. Corey Anderson pretty vocal over the last few days about the fight changing cities.
$204 and a half.
204.5, the city change did not affect Corey Anderson's weight cut. 204.5 pounds for Corey Anderson. Here comes CR Bahadurzada, who fights Curtis Milner on our second fight of the night tomorrow night on UFC Fight Pass. Afghanistan's own CR Bahadurzada, also a Jackson Wink MMA product. Quite a long time.
$171.
171 for Bahadurzada. That should be a very, very good fight. Bahadurzada versus Curtis Milner, 2 action fighters tomorrow night. Nathaniel Wood is next up. on stage. He fights the aforementioned Andre Ewell. Wood was supposed to fight Tom Duquesnoy in this fight, but Duquesnoy pulled out due to injury. Would have been an excellent European prospect fight.
135 and a half.
Wood is in at 135.5, and this will still be a good one. Wood, again, another a top European prospect, taking on Ewell, who has a win under his belt against Henan Barao. Should be a good bantamweight scrap tomorrow night. And look who's here, Alexander Gustafsson, the challenger. Actually, not the challenger, because it'll be a vacant belt as soon as the bell rings. Daniel Cormier will relinquish it. So technically, they're both challengers. But either way, he fights John Jones tomorrow night.
204 and a half.
204.5 for Alexander Gustafsson. Our main event is official. Jones versus Gustafsson 2. The rematch from one of the greatest title fights in UFC history from back in 2013, UFC 165. The toughest fight of John Jones' career, most likely. Here comes Curtis Millender now. We just saw his opponent tomorrow night, C.R. Barzada, weigh in. And here's Millender. Second fight of the night, UFC Fight Pass.
$170.
170 on the nose for Curtis Millender. Curtis Millender came to the optional media availability yesterday, and he was actually pretty excited that this card is taking place in Los Angeles. He lives just a few miles south in Orange County. Didn't mind at all. Here comes Alexander Volkanovski, and I'm very excited for this fight. Tomorrow night on the pay-per-view main card, Volkanovski versus Chad Mendes, very, very important featherweight fight. Volkanovski, a very exciting up-and-comer from Australia.
145.
And he's in at 145. $145 for Alexander Volkanovski. Said yesterday at the media availability that he feels that Chad Mendes has lost passion, and he feels he can capitalize on that lack of passion from Mendes and make a name in the bantamweight division. Here comes Brian Kelleher. He's in our opener against Montel Jackson at bantamweight.
135.
And he's in at 135. Boom. Brian Boom Kelleher, 135 pounds. Ready to go for his UFC 232 opening fight on Fight Pass against Montel Jackson. Bavon Lewis, next up on stage. Teammate of John Jones, prospect coming out of Jackson Wink MMA. He has Uriah Hall tomorrow night.
186.
186. Makes the weight. He's a guy that the folks down at Jackson Wink MMA in Albuquerque are very high on. But he will not have an easy task tomorrow night against Uriah Hall, a veteran of the UFC's middleweight division. Douglas Silva de Andrade is up next. He has a very intriguing fight tomorrow night against Peter Yan, the Russian prospect, and that is on the FS1 prelims portion of UFC 232. This is a bantamweight fight.
I'll use the stuff on. Let's go, please. $134.5.
134.5 for Douglas Silva de Andrade. He is official for his fight tomorrow night with Peter Yan.
BJ Penn.
How about this? Here comes BJ Penn, the legend himself, UFC Hall of Famer. One of the best of all time. Fighting tomorrow night on the FS1 prelims. Comeback fight in some ways against Ryan Hall, the BJJ specialist. This is a lightweight fight.
156.
156 for the prodigy. BJ Penn is in. Pop from the crowd in the back for the Hawaiian legend. Always good to see BJ Penn. The 40-year-old BJ Penn. Here with Andre Pederneiras from Nova União in Brazil. Here comes Chris Cyborg, who defends her women's featherweight title against Amanda Nunes in the co-main event. Cyborg has a well-documented tough weight cut, even to 145 pounds. Asking her to take off her cross necklace.
$144.
144 for Chris Cyborg. So our co-main event is official, Cyborg versus Nunes for the UFC women's featherweight title. Here comes Peter Yan, one of Mr. Rubenstein's fighters on his excellent roster at Ruby Sports Entertainment. Yan has a very big fight tomorrow night against Douglas Silva de Andrade. Second biggest favorite on the card, according to Danny Rubenstein.
135 and a half.
135.5 for Yan, who is a very, very good prospect from Russia. Already has 2 wins under his belt in the UFC. This is his first time fighting in the United States. Had a hard time at 155. Talked a lot about that. Says he is done at lightweight and he is moving on at 170 pounds. He fights the always tough, always game Carlos Condit on the UFC 232 pay-per-view main card tomorrow night.
170 and a half.
170.5 for Michael Chiesa, who is the healthiest I've seen Chiesa look on the scale quite some time. Looks very happy, in good spirits, almost skipping off the stage. Look how gives a Ric Flair woo at the end. That's a happy man at 170 pounds. Good to see. Uriah Hall up next. He has that middleweight fight against Bavon Lewis on the UFC Fight Pass prelims tomorrow night.
$185 and a half.
185.5 for Uriah Hall. Harris coming off a pretty exciting TKO of Daniel Spitz back in Utica.
Step up forward still when you're ready,
He said, ooh. Careful, baby.
That much over there.
$258 and a half.
258.5 for Walt Harris, the former college basketball player. That's a big boy. That's a big boy. And here he comes, the natural-born killer. NBK himself. former interim champion in the welterweight division, fan favorite, who has lost 4 in a row, trying to snap this skid against Michael Chiesa on the main card tomorrow night. Some technical difficulties with the scale, apparently. Hashtag beam scale. What's happening here?
171.
171 for Albuquerque's own Carlos Condit.
Straight ahead, this camera, 5.
Jackson Wink MMA product.
171.
And we are down to 6 fighters remaining to weigh in. At about an hour into our UFC 232 official weigh-ins. Carlos Condit up there with Brandon Six Gun Gibson, Jackson Wink MMA striking coach extraordinaire. Kat Zingano, who fights Megan Anderson on the FS1 prelims tomorrow night. 145-pound fight. Zingano moving up to 145. Former title contender in the UFC at 135 pounds. It's here with her good friend Barb Ponchak, the former Invicta flyweight champion. $144 for Kat Zingano. Big fight for her at 145, making the move up. If she wins, she beats Megan Anderson. Case could be made that could be next for Chris Cyborg, or, of course, Amanda Nunes, whoever wins in the co-main event tomorrow night. And it looks like there's someone else here, and it's Andrei Arlovsky, the heavyweight veteran, former UFC heavyweight champion. And he's fighting Walt Harris in the FS1 featured preliminary spot tomorrow night. Looks like Arlovsky just wants to weigh in. He's a heavyweight, wants to leave his clothes on, and the California Commission inspectors are saying, "No, sorry, Andre. You gotta take that off. You gotta hand the chain to somebody else." Arlovsky is telling the commission that he's not wearing any underwear and doesn't want to take off his pants. I imagine that he was teasing. He actually is wearing underwear. And the pitbull, Arlovsky.
$245.5.
Weighing in at 245.5. And I see Ryan Hall queued up after Arlovsky. Ryan Hall, of course, fights BJ Penn, the legend, on the FS1 prelims. We haven't seen Ryan Hall since December 2016 when he fought Gray Maynard on the TUF 24 finale. It's been a while for Ryan Hall, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialist, multiple-time champion.
$154 even.
Ryan Hall weighs 154. No problem for Hall. Very fascinating fight tomorrow night against BJ Penn.
54.
Mendez, of course, fighting Alexander Volkanovski. He is at 146. Big featherweight title fight on the UFC 232 main card. And here comes Megan Anderson, who fights Kat Zingano on the FS1 prelims tomorrow night. Big 145 pounds fight. With about 12 minutes remaining, Megan Anderson, who certainly looks somewhat dehydrated, will hit the scale. She needs to make 146.
$146.
And she does. 146 for Megan Anderson. And her fight with Kat Zingano is now official. So we are just waiting now on one person, Montel Jackson. Yeah. Looks like the towel is being taken out for Jackson, but now it's back behind the curtain. And here comes CSAC Executive Officer Andy Foster with the towel. CSAC inspectors will hold the towel up for Jackson to weigh in. He needs to hit 136 on the scale. And
137.
137. Mr. Jackson is 1 pound over. At 11:59 a.m. And he misses weight. He'll be fined a percentage of his purse. Which part of will go to Brian Kelleher, his opponent. And that wraps up the UFC 232 official weigh-ins. No extra time given for Montel Jackson.
Thank
It's
you,
over.
Thank you.